Please accept my blessing. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Rainam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam Daivim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Canto 1, Chapter 8, Text 37. Apyatya nastvam sva krute hita prabho jihasasi shuhado anujivina yesham na chanyad bhavata padambujat parayanam rajasu yojitam hasam.
O my Lord, you have executed all duties yourself. Are you leaving us today? Though we are constantly dependent on your mercy and have no one else to protect us, now when all kings are at enmity with us?
Text 38. Kevayam nama rupabhyam yadubi sah pandavaha bhavato adarshanam hyarhi rishikanam Shituha.
As the name and fame of a particular body is finished with the disappearance of the living spirit, similarly, if you do not look upon us, all our fame and activities, along with the Pandavas and Yadus, will end at once.
Text 39. Neyam sobhishyate tatra yathe danim gadadara Twatpadaira ankita bhati swalakshana vilakshitaha.
O Gadadhara, Krishna, our kingdom is now being marked by the impressions of your feet, and therefore it appears beautiful. But when you leave, it will no longer be so.
Text 40. Ime jana padash shudaha supakokshadi virudaha vanadrinadi udanvanto hi idante tava vikshitaihi.
All these cities and villages are flourishing in all respects because the herbs and grains are in abundance. The trees are full of fruits, the rivers are flowing, the hills are full of minerals, and the oceans full of wealth. And this is all due to your glancing over them.
Text 41. Atha vishvesha vishvatman vishvamurte swakeshu me sneha pasham imam chindi dradam pandushu vrishnishu.
O Lord of the universe, soul of the universe, O personality of the form of the universe, please therefore sever my tie of affection for my kinsmen and the Pandavas and the Vishnus.
Text 42. Tvai me ananya vishaya matir madhupate askruta ratim udvahatad adaya Gange Vyodgam Udanvati.
O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else.
Text 43. Shri Krishna Krishna Sakha Vrishni Vrishabhavani Druk Rajanyavam Sadahanan Apavarga Virya Govinda Godvija Surati Haravatara Yogeshwara Akhila Guru Bhagavan Namaste.
O Krishna, O friend of Arjuna, O chief amongst the descendants of Vishnu, you are the destroyer of those political parties which are disturbing elements on this earth. Your prowess never deteriorates. You are the proprietor of the transcendental abode, and you descend to relieve the distress of the cows, the brahmanas, and the devotees. You possess all mystic powers, and you are the preceptor of the entire universe. You are the Almighty God, and I offer you my respectful obeisances.
Text 44. Sutta Vacha Pruthayetam Kalat Padaihi Parinuta Khilodayah Mandam Jahasa Vaikuntho Mohayanniva Mayaya.
Suta Goswami said, the Lord, thus hearing the praise of Kunti Devi, composed in choice words for his glorification, mildly smiled. That smile was as enchanting as his mystic power.
Text 45. Tambadyam iti upamantraya pravishya jagasahriyam striyascha swaparam yashyan premana ragna nivarita.
Thus, accepting the praise of Srimati Kunti Devi, the Lord subsequently informed other ladies of his departure by entering the palace of Hastinapur. But upon preparing to leave, he was stopped by King Yudhishthira, who implored him lovingly.
Text 46. Vyasadye Ishware hijnai Krishne nadbhuta karmana prabodhito apiti haser na buddhyata sucharpitaha.
King Yudhishthira, who was much aggrieved, could not be convinced, despite instructions by great sages headed by Vaisya and the Lord Krishna himself, the performer of superhuman feats, and despite all historical evidence.
Text 47. Aharaja dharmasutas Chintayan shuhidam vadam prakrutenatmana vipraha sneha moha vasham gataha.
King Yudhishthira, son of Dharma, overwhelmed by the death of his friends, was aggrieved just like a common, materialistic man. O sages, thus deluded by affection, he began to speak.
Text 48. Aho me pashyata jnanam Ridi rudam duratmanah Parakyasya dehasya bahvyo me Kokshnir hataha.
King Yudhishthira said, "O my Lord, I am the most sinful man. Just see my heart, which is full of ignorance. This body, which is ultimately meant for others, he has killed many, many phalanxes of men."
Text 49. Baladvija Shuhin Mitra Pitru Bhatru Guru Druhaha Nameshan Nirayan Moksho Hi Api Varshayuta Yute.
I have killed many boys, brahmanas, well-wishers, friends, parents, recipients, and brothers. Though I live millions of years, I will not be relieved from the hell that awaits me for these.
Text 50. Naino Rajna Praja Bhartur Dharma Yudhe Vado Dvisham Iti Mena Tu Buddhaya Kalpate Shashanam Vachaha.
There is no sin for a king who kills for the right cause, who is engaged in maintaining his citizens. But this injunction is not applicable to me.
Text 51. Strina Maddata Bandhunam Druho Yos Asva Hito Thitai Karma Bher Gruha Medyer Naham Kalpo Vyapohitam.
I have killed many friends of women, and I have thus caused enmity to such an extent that it is not possible to undo it by material welfare work.
Text 52. Yatha Pankena Pankambhya Pankambha Suraya Vasurakrutam Bhutahatyam Tathai Vaikam Na Yajne Martum Arhati.
As it is not possible to filter muddy water through mud, or purify a wine-stained pot with wine, it is not possible to counteract the killing of men by sacrificing animals.
It does end the Bhakti Vedanta purport of the first canto, 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Prayers by Queen Kunti and Parikshit Saved. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Sorry,
Krishna.
excuse me for my mistakes. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for the recitation. So, all of you can see my screen, I guess.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you, Mataji, for confirmation. Yeah. So, let's start. Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama-shloke Bhaktir Bhavati. So the verse is 1839. Neyam shobhishchate tatra yathe danim gadadhara त्वत् पदैर अंकिता भाति स्वलक्षण विलक्षितैः नेयं शोभिष्यते तत्र यथेदानीं गदाधर त्वत् पदैर अंकिता भाति स्वलक्षण विलक्षितैः नेयं शोभिष्यते तत्र यथेदानीं गदाधर त्वत् पदैर अंकिता भाति स्वलक्षण विलक्षितैः. So the word by word translation, na, not, iyam, this land of our kingdom, shobhishyate, will appear beautiful, tatra, then, yatha, as it is now, idanim, now, gadadhara, O Krishna, tvat, your, padaihi, by your feet, ankita, marked, bhati, is dazzling, swalakshana, your own marks, vilakshitehi, by the impressions, translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Joy. Translation is, O Gadadhara, Krishna, our kingdom is now being marked by the impressions of your feet, and therefore it appears very beautiful. But when you leave, it will no longer be so. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are certain particular marks on the feet of the Lord which distinguish the Lord from others. The mark of a flag, thunderbolt, and instrument to drive an elephant is also called ankush. Umbrella, lotus, disc, etc. are on the bottom of the lotus feet. These marks are impressed upon the soft dust of the land where the Lord traverses. The land of Hastinapur was thus marked while Lord Krishna was there with the Pandavas, and the kingdom of the Pandavas thus flourished by such auspicious signs. Kunti Devi pointed out these distinguished features and was afraid of ill luck in the absence of the Lord. Very, very interesting and very instructive verse and the purport by Prabhupada. So, let's chant the Mangala Charana. Om Adnyantimirandhasya Dhyananjana Chakshuronnmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sa Advaitam Sa Avadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। यं प्राव्रजेतमनुपेतमपेत कृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरह कातराजो आवा पुत्रेति तन्मयतयो तरवोऽभिनेदुस्तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। यन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसूक्तां सञ्जीवयत्यखिलशक्तिधरः स्वधाम्ना। अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणात् श्रवणात् त्वगादीन् प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम्। ध्यानलम्बितौ कनकावदातो संकीर्तनैकपितरौ कमलायताक्षो विश्वम्भरौ द्विजभरौ युगधर्मपालौ वन्दे जगत्प्रियगुरौ करुणावतारम्। So the verse is Neyam Shobhishyate Tatra Yathe Danim Gadadhara Tvat Padair Ankita Bhati Swalakshana Vilakshitaihi. O Gadadhar, Krishna, our kingdom is now being marked by the impressions of your feet, and therefore it appears beautiful. But when you leave, it will no longer be so. So here Kunti Devi is specifically talking about the surrender, the lotus feet of the Lord. In the earlier verse, she talks about the glances of the Lord, which is basically the creation. Just by the glance, Lord gives the knowledge, the Vedas, and just by the glance, Lord creates everything. So if we go back here, the previous verse, so as the name and fame of a particular body is finished with the disappearance of the living spirit, similarly, if you do not look upon us, all our fame and activities, along with the Pandavas and Yadus, will end at once. So it's just a glance of the Lord, which is giving us everything. It's the opulence, it's the existence of in this material world and in the spiritual world. Is because of the glance of the Lord. Otherwise, we don't have capacity to do on everything on our own. It's our free will which gets fulfilled by the glance of the Lord, by the mercy of the Lord. So that's the earlier verse. In today's verse, we are talking something about very important instruction. That is, she talks about the surrender, impressions of your lotus feet. So let's discuss that now. So if we see, Hastinapur was the most opulent and the wonderful city at that time. Everything was perfect there, except one city which was even more opulent, more powerful, and very beautifully crafted by Vishwakarma himself, which was Dwarka. Because that was the whole design, the architect, civil engineer, everything was done by the Lord himself. As we know the pastime, that he moved everything from Mathura to Dwarka, his capital. So that's what in Hastinapur, this is the whole opulence, the beauty and everything. It was all enhanced. It was all very wonderful because Lord was there. It was his lotus feet which was showing the marks in the city of Hastinapur, which was the capital. So if we see here, what she talks about is the feet, by the impressions of your feet. So how she talks about the surrender, the humility of Kunti Devi, that by her position is practically same as Mother Yashoda. She has that demeanor of mother of the Lord, respects her, touches her lotus feet and everything. But her mood of surrender is showing here. She's showing here that your lotus feet are something which are making everything beautiful. So humility of a Vaishnava is to approach the Lord in a very humble, very meek position. And that's what Kunti Devi is telling us here. Here we can see Kunti Devi's soft-heartedness in the earlier verses, because her mood of surrender and her love, her affection in that Vatsalya ras, and the mood of total surrender. It's a beautiful combination of her humility, her soft-heartedness, her motherly affection, and the mood of surrender. It's a very wonderful combination of her, and that shows in her personality. And that's why we can see all the verses are very poetic. The Vyakaran is perfect. The analogies she's giving, those are so perfect. So everything is perfect because of her mood of humility, mood of surrender. And that's why Lord has imparted that power of perfect prayers in her heart. And we can see that example in Dhruva Maharaj as well. When Dhruva Maharaj was completely bewildered, and that time Lord touched the conch shell to his forehead, to his kapala, and that time Dhruva Maharaj started those beautiful prayers, which one of the prayers I chant, that is Yuntah Pravishya Mama Vacham Imam Prasuktam. So that's the verse. So it's the same way we can see here. And as she can see, that devotee is always anxious to meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord, and that we can see in this particular verse, impressions of your lotus feet. So her mood of surrender, the meditation is on the lotus feet of the Lord. So here we can see the few stories, and we will at least start with one, but there are there are more than one story. We can look at the stories if time permits. The first story is when Arjun, when it was decided that there is going to be a war between Kaurav and Pandav. That time Arjun wanted to see the Lord, meet the Lord, seek his blessings more than just a political support. When Duryodhan was materially incredibly intelligent person, very intelligent person. We can see that in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the way he speaks, the word he crafts there, very proper, highly intellectual person. When he heard that Arjun is going to meet the Lord Krishna, before that Duryodhan has made all sorts of crazy arrangements and he wanted to arrest the Lord. Then Lord showed him the Vishwarup Darshan, and still Duryodhan did not learn from his mistakes, and then he wanted to see the Lord, because more than just Lord's power, because of his relationship, his daughter was married to the son of the Lord Samba. And then another thing is, there are such a massive army, the Yadu army Lord had. So Duryodhan wanted to have some benefit, and that's why even before Arjun, Duryodhan wanted to reach the city of Dwarka. And obviously, him being a student of Balram, he had that special, what do you call, some connection as well there. So somehow he reached there, and then Arjun also, he was there, and before they entered the Shayana Gruha, where Lord was sleeping, Arjun and Duryodhan, they exchanged. Duryodhan gave a hug to Arjun, and then they entered in the Shayana Gruha of the Lord. Lord, obviously, when Krishna is sleeping, it is not a normal sleep. It is a yoga nidra. It's a pastime. So, not that we have to take things in a very logical sense here. So Arjun went, and as Arjun's mood is, he sat towards the lotus feet of the Lord, and Duryodhan, he always thought that he is equal, he's not subordinate. At least he's equal to the Lord, and because Balram's disciple, student, that means, yes, I'm not less than the Lord himself. So that's what his mood was, and he sat towards the head of the Lord. When Krishna was sleeping, the Duryodhan was more into social etiquettes and the rules of this material world, whereas the mood of Arjun was to surrender, was the humility, and as same as his mother. When Arjun sat towards on the floor towards the lotus feet of the Lord, his mood was to relish that sight of the lotus feet of the Lord when he was sleeping. And then Duryodhan's mood was more of a, what I can get out of it, what is in it there for me. So that's the difference between devotee and non-devotee. One has a mood of humble servitude, and which is totally missing in case of non-devotee. Humble menial service attitude, as His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj says, that it is a prime prerequisite for progressing on the path of bhakti. Menial and insignificant position we should understand all the time. Maharaj always emphasizes on this point. and we'll come to some of the verses from Shikshashtakam in after some time. Whereas in case of Duryodhan, false pride demands the exalted position, demands honor, demands prestige, and it demands the power. And the reason is false pride. These all demands is nothing but a manifestation of a lusty desires, profit, adoration, distinctions, and obviously which results in the gross lust. In case of Arjun or in Kunti Devi, we can see that devotee is not trying to see the Krishna face to face because of the humble menial service attitude, and he or she is interested in serving the lotus feet of the Lord, and that's what Kunti Devi is meditating on here. Impressions of your lotus feet are being marked in this city, and now you are leaving. She says that. So it will no longer be that beautiful. When Lord is in the Krishna is at the center, everything is beautiful. When he is not the main focus, not the main attraction, he is not at the center, then things start becoming dispersed. It's not the same. And as time progresses, when the Lord is not at the center, we can see things start dismantling. And there are so many practical examples of that. So the interesting bit here is when devotee is serving the lotus feet of the Lord and he is receiving the pleasure, Lord always makes sure that he will give more pleasure. The devotee will receive more pleasure and bliss in return. And that's the formula for causeless mercy. Because if we try to find reason in that, we can't fit anywhere, because it's divya, divine, and that is the right word, divya. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Gaya to perform Shraddha ceremony of Jagannath Mishra, his father, he went to that famous shrine where Lord Krishna's lotus feet are marked. There were many Brahmanas who were chanting very wonderful and very eloquent prayers and mantras, glorifying the lotus feet of the Lord. There were rich fragrances and very mesmerizing atmosphere. We can imagine how it is. And they were describing the prayers of Lord Brahma, where Lord Shiva is where Lord Brahma talks about the lotus feet of the Lord Shiva, when how Mother Ganga is there. She originates from the lotus feet of the Lord, and Lord Shiva accepts her on his head and all that. Those were all the prayers. And that's where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started getting the ecstatic symptoms. So just by listening to the glories of the lotus feet of the Lord, just by listening to the wonderful prayers offered by the Brahmanas there in Gaya, Mahaprabhu started showing the ecstatic symptoms. That is the sign of a devotee. And what is the glory of the lotus feet of the Lord? The feet of the Lord, the pada, is massaged by whom? The goddess of fortune herself, Lakshmi Devi. She's willing to leave everything and meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord. So obviously our position should be that if we are ready to surrender, if our meditation is on the feet of the Lord, obviously goddess of fortune, being our spiritual mother, she will look after the kids to look after the devotees, and that is the formula. That's why it is one of the byproducts of bhakti that devotees needs are taken care of, and that's the 922 Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Ye Janam Parivasate Tesham Nitya Abhyuktanam Yogukshemam Mahamyam. Lord says that whatever I carry what you have and I provide what you lack. There are so many examples of amazing personalities, great devotees. When Lord's lotus feet gave them a shelter, one of the wonderful examples, the pastime of Bali Maharaj. He was the Lord of the universe. Entire universe was under his control. Such a grand, powerful personality. And when Lord said he came as a dwarf, as a Vamanadev, and Bali Maharaj washed his feet with a golden pot, and then he drank that water, sprinkled everywhere, and that time he said, now it is so auspicious. And he gave so many reasons why at the lotus feet of Brahmana, of the devotee, is so wonderful. And that's the reason he received that Brahma Tej. And that's why he did not even fight with Indradev. Indra just ran away, looking at the Tej and the power of Bali Maharaj. And where was it coming from? Mother Ganga, it comes from the lotus feet of the Lord. And Bali Maharaj was purified after washing the lotus feet of the Vamandev and then drinking that water. So, and that Shukracharya, his curse earlier than that was that you will lose everything. But the curse itself was a benediction. That he as we know the pastime of Bali Maharaj, that he lost everything in the 2 steps of Vamandev. And then he said that Bali Maharaj says that now you have taken everything. It's the thing is, I relish Bali Maharaj's, that Vamandev and Bali Maharaj's pastime so much. I can keep on talking for quite some time. So Bali Maharaj said that you have, everything belongs to you. You have, it's all yours. You are so merciful that you have taken everything from what it was not mine. Now, but one thing you don't take. You are so merciful that we have to surrender. We have to give it on our own, and that is my free will. That's my existence. So you put 3rd step on my head, and because I'm surrendering unto you, to your lotus feet. So that was the shelter, that is the umbrella of the lotus feet of the Lord, which was there on Bali Maharaj's head. What an amazing example of surrender it is. Atma Nivedanam, complete surrender. That is the personification. That is Bali Maharaj. And that's why it is said that Lord's lotus feet is a supreme treasure in the devotee's heart. Sadhurudayam mayam sadhunam rudayam tvam. The Lord says that I reside in devotee's heart and devotees reside in my heart. And so the glories of the lotus feet of the Lord are sung by all great personalities in all the scriptures. So today, when I was going through this verse, I thought such an amazing point that feet of the Lord we should meditate on. And then I just thought in 10th canto, few chapters I opened up and then did the Control F, and how many times the feet part, the word feet comes here. And we will be amazed to know that every prayer, the lotus feet of the Lord are glorified so wonderfully. We'll come to that point a little later. And just if you find time, then we can do that exercise. So it's just a meditation. If we want to um, just feel like chanting some of the prayers, we can just go to any chapter, especially the prayers, search for the word feet, and obviously either the devotee's lotus feet or Lord's lotus feet, those prayers will be there, and that can be our start or end of the day meditation. So we were talking about the glories of the lotus feet of the Lord are sung by all great personalities. And first example is when Akrur, when he went to Vrindavan to take Lord and Balram ji to Mathura, when he entered Vrindavan, he saw the footprints of the lotus feet of the Lord in the Brajareti. And he fell down from his chariot out of ecstasy and started rolling in the dust of Vrajabhumi with that divine ecstatic love. This tells us the example of when the devotee is surrendered, the feet of the Lord gives him the supreme bliss. And in Bhagavatam later, we'll see what is there at the lotus feet of the Lord. Of course, the tulsi leaf is there, but the fragrance at the lotus feet of the Lord is of a saffron. The dust there is nothing but a saffron dust, and it's the beautiful fragrance. And then obviously, Lord's every limb is fragrant of Chatushma, the aguru, the sandalwood, the musk, the camphor, and saffron. Those all fragrances are there at the different limbs of the lotus feet of the Lord. So in Shikshashtakam, there is a verse, Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Budhu Kripaya Tavapada Pankajastitadhuli Sadrasham Vichintaya. So what does that mean? Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram, you are that son of Nanda Maharaj. Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Budhu. So all the that is the shelter for the all the patita, for the fallen conditioned souls, for patitam mam vishame bhavam budho, who are there in this material world, in the ocean of miseries. Kripaya tavapada pankaja. Pankaja means lotus, the kamal. So Kripaya, I am requesting that give me the shelter at your lotus feet. Kripaya tavapada pankaja stitadhulim sadrasham vichintaya. Let me be the dust, the speck of the dust at your lotus feet. That is the supreme prayer when by Lord's Bhakti Avatar. How to perform bhakti. This is an example. Another example, the pastime, is Gautam Rishi's wife, Ahilya. She was cheated by Indra. And because of that, when Gautam Rishi saw that, she became a Shila, the rock, the stone. And before she became a stone, Gautam Rishi explained that it is because of the impurities she had in her heart, and only Lord can remove those impurities when he will touch his lotus feet to you. Then later on, when Lord Ramchandra and Lakshman, when they were traveling from Mithila back to Ayodhya, Lakshman asked Vishwamitra Muni about that peculiar stone there, which was lying around on their path. And Vishwamitra Muni explained that the pastimes about what happened, about Gautam Rishi and the curse and everything. So then Lord Ramchandra touched his lotus feet onto that stone, and then Ahilya Devi, Mother Ahilya, she came back as a personality, from that stone she appeared. And Gautam Rishi also appeared at that time. They paid obeisances to Lord Ramchandra, surrendered to his lotus feet. And that time, Mother Ahilya praised her husband for the curse and expressed her gratitude towards the Lord, because she was saying otherwise those impurities would not have gone away. Because of that curse was empowered. That because of that curse, which was that empowerment Gautam Rishi received from the Lord. That's why the mercy she received from the lotus feet of Lord Ramchandra. Then Gautam Rishi later on he killed a cow by mistake. It was an arrangement of demigods because of the touch of the blade of grass, and he had to take bath in Mother Ganga. That was the prayashchitta, the atonement. And he performed the tapasya, and finally the river appeared, and Lord Shiva took her on his head. And that river is in Nashik, the northern part of Maharashtra. It's called Godavari. Go means cow, and that's the reason, because of that pastime she appeared there. So that's none other than Ganga Devi herself. Lord Chaitanya's pastime at Godavari River. Krishna. It's quite fascinating that when Mahaprabhu when he went for South India Yatra, and that time when he went to near the Godavari River, the Godavari River started expanding, it started swelling, and people were amazed. How come that is happening? And that's because Godavari River wanted to touch the lotus feet of the Lord, and that is the mood of a devotee. Ganga Devi, because of her mood of surrender, wherever she gets the opportunity, whenever and wherever, she tries to touch the lotus feet of the Lord, and that happened in the Mahaprabhu's Leela. So Mahaprabhu gives the benediction for us, the people in Kali Yuga, that even if we remember the Lord and if we have that mood, even the breeze of these rivers, the holy rivers, has a potency to give us a prema bhakti, which is the ultimate goal of our life, of the human life. And we need to have that receptivity for the supreme goal of life, to receive the prema bhakti. And that's the eternal Shashwata Strot, eternal source of bliss. Here again, if you're coming back to this point, the real treasure for Kunti Devi and the Pandavas is that they had constant meditation on the lotus feet of the Lord throughout the entire Mahabharata, because Lord was always there. And what was their mood? But Mahaprabhu says in Shikshashtakam, na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagadish kamahe mama janmani janmanishware bhavatad bhakti rahitukitve. So if we see all the last session we talked about Vipada Santuta Shashvat Tatra Tatra Jagadguru. Before that, Kunti Devi says about what are all the difficulties, the Narabhakshak, which is the cannibals, and then Lakshagr, the firehouse, and all she describes before that. But at that time, what was the Pandavas' mood? It's the same as Mahaprabhu gives in Shikshashtakam. I just want your bhakti all the time. Na dhanam na janam na sundarim. They were not looking for any kind of worldly allurements. Their mood was service to the Lord, is to attain the lotus feet of the Lord. Mama janmani janmanishware bhavatat bhakti rahitu kitvai. And that was the exact mood of Pandavas and Kunti Devi and Draupadi and all the great personalities at that time. Vidura as well. Yeah. So a devotee understands that the topmost goal of life is devotional service, and that's the bottom line of this particular verse here. How is that? And that is one of the prayers we chant every day. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. Vishnu Padaya. Vishnu Pada. Pada means feet. So the person who has surrendered at the lotus feet of the Lord Vishnu or Krishna, whomever has taken the lotus feet of the Lord, they are worshipable to us. And that is why we, what Mahaprabhu says is, Gopir Bharatur Pada Kamalayor, Pada Kamala, Pada, against the lotus feet of the devotees, of the gopis. Dasa, 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 Anudas. So that means Das means the position of Das is sitting at the feet of the master and listen to his demands to please the master. So that's the mood, and that's what our sampradaya is saying. If we see the prayers, Gopi Geet also starts with Tava Padambujam Tapta Jivanam. So at your lotus feet there is a shelter, there nowhere else. And what they say in both Samabhoga and Vipralamba, both bhav, gopis are just focusing on the lotus feet of the Lord, as in all their prayers and when their exchanges with the Lord. So in our sampradaya, humility is the most prominent quality we aspire for, and our aspiration is to serve the Lord and his devotees and receive the speck of the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. And that is why again Mahaprabhu, we are coming to Shikshashtakam, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnana Amanina Manavena Kirtanya Sadahari. So that humility will come when we surrender at the feet of the devotees of the Lord, and eventually the Lord himself, by following the instructions given by our acharyas. And ultimately those instructions are coming from whom? From the Supreme Lord, because Lord is there in the acharya's heart as a Chaitya Guru as well, and we receive the mercy of the Lord through them. So another interesting point here is, at Vidyanagar, Srila Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was earlier a Mayavadi, informed him about Srila Ramananda Roy, whom he used to say that no, he is just a sentimental person. But when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became a devotee, he was a profound scholar, and then he realized before Mahaprabhu went for South India Yatra, that there is a person called Ramananda Rai, who is an amazing, great devotee. He has a very high post in the government, but he's a great devotee. And that time Lord Chaitanya bathed in the river Godavari and sat on the bank. And then Srila Ramananda Roy, he came with his whole procession, all the Brahmanas and ministers and everybody. And he also took a bath and met Lord Chaitanya. It was a loving exchange. And then Ramananda Roy explained the inner details of bhakti on the bank of Godavari. And in that he said, the humility, the surrender at the lotus feet of the Lord. And that time, again, the whole concept of or the revelation of Gopir Bharatur Padakamalayor Das 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 Anudas, that was the whole point of discussion. That was the focus. And as we can see that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the purports and the commentaries, we can read that. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explained that feet of Vaishnavas, dust from the feet of Vaishnavas, water from the feet of Vaishnavas, and the remnants of Vaishnavas can purify us and purify the entire universe. That is because those Vaishnavas had taken the shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Himself. Yeah, so that's the lineage we are supposed to follow, and that's the lesson we need to learn from this particular verse, that the impressions of the lotus feet of the Lord is our savior. So what's the verse which comes to our mind? Let me go through some of those. So the important verse we have already discussed is this one. Samashritaye padapallavaplavam. It's from the prayers by Lord Brahma in the 10th canto, 14th chapter. Samashritaye padapallavaplavam mahatpadam punya yasho murare bhavam vatsa padam param padam yad vipadam natesham. Lots of padam means feet is there everywhere. So you can see the pada of the feet, pallava, like flower buds. So again here, padam yad vipadam natesham. So at every step. And for those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is a shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Murari, the enemy of Mura demon, the ocean of the material world is like the water contained in the calf's hoof print. Their goal is Param Padam, Vaikuntha, the place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. So very, very important verse. We can just repeat this verse every day, make it by heart for us to remember. It's a big pacification for the people like us who are materially conditioned. So I think I should talk about myself, not about all of you, but that's one of the important verses we can remember. And there are many more verses where the prayers of many great personalities. Let's go to some of the prayers. So here, so if we check the Gopi song of separation, we saw that there is they talk constantly about the feet of the Lord. So let's come to that particular. So if we search the word feet, we can see, and when we remember how you followed the cows from forest to forest with your tender feet, we feel great pain. So that's the whole meditation is on the lotus feet of the Lord. Again, they are saying, O best of the Vrishnis, your lotus-like hand, which holds the hand of goddess of fortune, grants fearlessness to those who approach your feet, out of fear of material existence. O lover, please place that wish-fulfilling lotus hand on our heads, and so on. So any prayer, if you see, we can see your feet, dear master, dear lover, your feet. So that's the mood of surrender by the devotees. And yeah, your lotus feet are so soft that we place them gently on our breasts, fearing that your feet will be hurt. Our life rests only in you. Our minds, therefore, are filled with anxiety that your tender feet might be wounded by pebbles as you roam about on the forest path. So every single, if we see the prayer of Akrur, again, we can see and if we search the word feet, yes, Lord's lotus feet. Such an important point for us to remember in every single prayer. Being thus fallen, I am approaching your feet for shelter, O Lord, because although the impure can never attain your feet, I think it is nevertheless possible by your mercy. Only when one's material life has ceased, O Lotus Never Lord, can one develop consciousness of you by serving your pure devotees. So, yeah, that's the verse. I think that's what I thought of discussing here. Are there any questions? Are there any comments? Are there any additions? No questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Prabhuji, this Gopi Geet,
Uh-huh.
are we only allowed to sing it in Kartik month?
No, not necessarily. Kartik month is a very auspicious month. Purushottam Maas or Kartik Maas is a very auspicious. So that time, our focus should be more, and that's Ranath Maharaj says that is the time we should step up our sadhana.
Okay.
And that's the reason our focus should be more on spiritual activities. So what are all those that Gopi Geet is our what do you call, our focus, our meditation. Any prayer, Gajendra, some people say that Gajendra Moksha prayer should be our meditation. Some people say some other prayer should be our meditation. But that is the point. We can sing Gopi Geet at any time. In fact, it's not necessary that we have to sing Damodar Ashtakam only in Kartik. You can sing Damodar Ashtakam every day throughout the year. There's nothing wrong in that.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other question or comment?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
This Srimad Bhagavatam is full of prayers. We got so many prayers,
Yes.
right? And these prayers, we don't need a specific time or place to sing them.
Yes.
As we are not pure to like the gopis, but still we are singing this Gopi Geet. And
Yeah.
some people will say, oh, don't sing Gopi Geet until you reach Canto 10. Or don't recite Gajendra Moksha until you reach Canto 7. But some people do it every day.
Yes.
And
yes.
this is kind of a habit. And the prayers are there for specific reason for us to benefit. So anytime we can say, we can recite those prayers from the Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Very nice class. Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. So, Bhagavatam has prayers, Brahma Samhita is a prayer, King Kulashekar has written beautiful prayers. So, there are prayers is our shelter, because when we pray, devotees always pray for themselves, for others, for everybody, and that's the atmosphere we want to be in all the time. For example, if we go in front of deities, and that time we should remember as many prayers as possible, as per our mood, situation, time, place, and circumstances. Sometimes the prayers from different scriptures, sometimes the prayers, if we can start thinking about composing something and offering to the Lord. We don't have to be very poetic and very, what do you call, grammatically correct. Not necessary, because it's the connection between us and the Lord. He knows what our intentions are. So we can offer any prayer at any time. It need not have to be very eloquent, very scholarly, or anything like that. So that's the point. Or no comments, then we will
Krishna
stop
Prabhuji,
here.
can I just add one point? Krishna,
Of course, please do.
wonderful scholarly class as always, Prabhuji. It really is incredible. Your depth of knowledge is wonderful. So it's lovely listening to you and your bhakti. So thank you for that. I think a devotee just mentioned also prayers about Gopi Gita, etc. So just something we should be cautious of, and Prabhupada also tells us of this, is that we should avoid rushing to the prayers of the 10th canto, in particular those prayers of the gopis, until we've understood who the gopis are and the moods of the gopis. Absolutely. And the mood with which they're singing, because it is very easy for us neophytes to misunderstand or misinterpret or deviate away from the central purpose of those prayers. Definitely. So that is why, I mean, there's no harm. All prayers are potent. But the mood with which the gopis are praying to Krishna, it is transcendental and out of this world completely. And unless we've matured in our bhakti to be able to understand that, it could be harmful for our bhakti if we start just willy-nilly reciting prayers that we're not understanding, particularly those of the gopis, because they are of such a high standard and of such a high level of understanding. Their love for Krishna is something that is not material. So that's the only caution I think that Prabhupada himself tells us, that we should not, that's why he said we should not rush into Canto 10 until we've progressively read the Bhagavatam.
I agree.
And so it's just, I think until we feel that we're ready for it, we should be just cautious about some of those prayers. I mean, they're of course all potent. Prayers are all potent, no doubt at all. But there's just, Prabhupada himself gives us a word of caution. That we should be careful, particularly those prayers of the gopis, until we're advanced enough to understand those prayers. Then it's nicer to recite them when we understand the mood of the gopis. That was the only point I would
agreed. So the point is, thank you, Shailesh Prabhu, for bringing that up. Now, when any new person, for example, somebody gets into this sahajiya type of mood, that yes, I can also imitate something. So that should not be the case. Imitation is always dangerous. Reading the prayers, if we know the history, Ravanath Maharaj gives a very, very beautiful example. He says that if a person goes to Vrindavan, and if they don't know the potency, the power of Vrindavan, the person will easily commit some offenses. So it is not helpful that for that person, it doesn't matter to the dham, to the devotees, but for our own benefit, for our own advancement, we should be careful. So when we are trying to be a devotee, we should do our homework properly, and that's what our acharyas, Prabhupada, and all our great personalities are telling. So, very important point. Thank you. So, if there is nothing else, then we will stop here. Thank you very much.
कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Very nice class, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Wonderful class.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Hare Bol.
Wonderful class, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Thank you for your encouragement.
Beautiful class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
As usual. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.